Chidi's hands trembled as he stared at the torn pages scattered across the study room floor. His notebook, the one containing months of research, lay destroyed. His three closest friends stood by the doorway, watching him. Emeka's jaw was clenched tight, his eyes avoiding Chidi's gaze. Ngozi crossed her arms, her face a mixture of guilt and defiance. Olu shifted nervously, unable to look at the mess they had created together just minutes ago. Why? Chidi's voice cracked as he knelt down, gathering the torn papers with shaking fingers. The formulas he had worked on for weeks were now nothing but scattered pieces of his shattered trust and broken friendship. But this moment of betrayal didn't happen overnight. To understand how four friends who once laughed together became enemies, we must go back to where it all began. 6 months earlier, when everything was still perfect. The morning sun painted the University of Lagos campus in golden light. Chidi walked through the gates carrying his worn backpack, a smile already forming on his lips as he spotted his friends under the big acacia tree. "Chidi!" Emeka waved enthusiastically, his voice booming across the courtyard. "Come here, we saved you some akara. Mama Sad made them extra spicy today, just the way you love them." The aroma made Chidi's stomach rumble with hunger. Ngozi patted the empty space beside her on the concrete bench. "We were just discussing yesterday's mathematics lecture. Professor Okafor's explanation of calculus made my head spin like a ceiling fan. Can you help us understand it better?" Olu nodded eagerly, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Yes, please, Chidi. You always make difficult things sound so easy. How do you do that? My father keeps asking why I cannot score like you do." Chidi sat down and pulled out his notebook, flipping to the pages filled with neat diagrams. "It's not that hard, really. Let me show you a simpler way to think about it. Imagine the formula is like cooking stew, step by step." For the next hour, they huddled together as Chidi explained concepts with patience and clarity. His friends listened carefully, asking questions, and slowly understanding dawned on their faces like sunrise breaking through clouds. These were moments Chidi treasured most, sharing knowledge with people he loved. When the bell rang for their next class, they walked together laughing and joking. "One day when we all become successful, we'll remember these study sessions," Emeka said, throwing his arm around Chidi's shoulder with genuine warmth and brotherhood. The classroom was already filling up when they arrived. Students chatted nervously because Professor Okafor had promised to return their midterm exam results today. The anxiety in the air was thick enough to taste on everyone's tongue. Professor Okafor entered, his gray hair neatly combed, carrying a stack of papers under his arm. "Good morning, class. I must say, these results were quite interesting this semester. Some of you exceeded my expectations, while others clearly need more effort." He began calling names alphabetically, handing back papers with comments written in red ink. Students groaned or sighed with relief as they saw their scores. The tension mounted with each passing minute as they waited for their turn. "Chidi Okonkwo," Professor Okafor called out, and Chidi walked forward on slightly nervous legs. The professor smiled warmly as he handed over the paper. "Excellent work as always, young man. You scored 98 out of 100 marks." The class erupted in murmurs and whispers. Chidi returned to his seat, feeling his friend's eyes on him. He tried to appear modest, but inside his heart swelled with pride and the satisfaction of hard work rewarded with success. "Emeka Nwosu," the professor continued. Emeka stood up, his shoulders squared with hope and expectation. But when he received his paper, his confident smile faded quickly. 65 marks stared back at him, barely above the passing grade of 60. Ngozi received 68 marks, her lips pressing into a thin, disappointed line. Olu got 70 marks, which should have pleased him, but his eyes kept darting toward Chidi's paper with an expression that wasn't quite friendly anymore. Something had shifted in that moment. After class, they gathered again under the acacia tree for lunch. The mood felt different now, heavier somehow. Emeka ate his rice in silence while Ngozi stabbed at her food with more force than necessary, her fork scraping loudly against the plate. "Congratulations on your score, Chidi," Olu said, but his voice lacked its usual warmth and cheerfulness. "You always do so well. Must be nice to find everything so easy while the rest of us struggle and fight for every single mark." Chidi noticed the edge in his friend's tone but dismissed it quickly. Thank you, but I don't find it easy at all. I study very hard every night. You know this. Remember, I'm always happy to help any of you whenever you need me. Help, Ngozi repeated, almost laughing but without humor in her voice. Yes, you're always so eager to help, aren't you? Like you're doing us some great favor. Maybe some of us don't want your help, Chidi. Maybe we want to succeed on our own merits. The words stung like a slap across Chidi's face. He looked at Emeka, expecting his best friend to defend him. But Emeka just kept eating, pretending not to hear the conversation happening right beside him. The silence felt louder than any argument could. Days turned into weeks, and the distance between them grew wider with each passing moment. His friends stopped inviting Chidi to their study sessions. When he approached them in the courtyard, their laughter would die down and awkward silence would fill the space. One afternoon, Chidi overheard them talking near the library entrance. He wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but their voices carried clearly through the open window above his head. What he heard made his blood run cold with shock and disbelief. "I'm tired of always being compared to him," Emeka said bitterly, his voice thick with frustration and resentment. "My father keeps asking why Chidi scores higher, as if I'm not trying hard enough, as if his success somehow proves my failure and inadequacy." Ngozi agreed quickly, her tone sharp as broken glass. "Every lecturer uses him as an example. Why can't you all be like Chidi? They ask us constantly. It's humiliating and exhausting. I work just as hard, maybe even harder, but nobody ever notices or cares about my efforts." "We should do something," Olu suggested quietly, and Chidi's heart began to race with growing fear. "Something that would level the playing field between us. Something that would give us a fair chance at success for once in our academic lives." Chidi didn't wait to hear more of their plotting. He walked away quickly, his mind spinning with confusion and hurt. These were his friends, people he had helped countless times. How had his success become their enemy? Why did his achievements feel like personal attacks to them? The next major exam was approaching fast, the one that would determine their final year rankings. Chidi decided to study even harder, hoping that perhaps if he could help his friends improve their scores, their friendship might heal and return to normal. He left notes with helpful tips in their lockers. He sent them messages offering free tutoring sessions. He even prepared simplified study guides and left them on their desks. But his attempts at reconciliation were met with cold silence and turned backs. Professor Okafor announced a special research project worth 30% of their final grade. Each student would present their findings to a panel of lecturers at the end of the month. This was the most important assignment of their entire university career. Chidi threw himself into the work with passionate dedication and focus. He spent hours in the library, researching advanced mathematical theories that could solve real problems in Nigerian communities. His notebook became filled with calculations, diagrams, and breakthrough ideas that excited him deeply. He developed a formula for optimizing water distribution in rural villages using basic mathematics. It was brilliant, innovative, and could actually help thousands of people across the country. For once, his academic pursuit had a purpose beyond grades and recognition. 2 weeks before the presentation deadline, Chidi needed to print some materials from the computer lab. He saved his work on a flash drive and headed to class, leaving his precious notebook in the study room, where he always kept it safely. When he returned 3 hours later, rushing because he had forgotten the notebook, the study room door was slightly open. That was strange because he clearly remembered closing it firmly. His instincts screamed warning, but he pushed the door anyway. The sight that greeted him crushed his spirit completely and absolutely. Papers torn from his notebook covered the floor like fallen leaves after a terrible storm. His months of research, his breakthrough formula, his dreams of helping people, all destroyed systematically and deliberately. Emeka, Ngozi, and Olu stood near the doorway, frozen like statues caught in a shameful act. The evidence of their betrayal was written clearly on their guilty faces. They had destroyed his work, hoping to eliminate their competition once and for all. "Why?" Chidi asked again, his voice breaking as tears filled his eyes despite his efforts to appear strong. "I thought we were friends. I would never hurt any of you like this. How could you do something so cruel and heartless to me?" Emeka's tough exterior cracked first, his voice choking with emotion and regret. "Because we're tired, Chidi. Tired of always coming second to you? Tired of feeling like failures whenever you succeed? We thought if you couldn't complete the project, maybe we would finally have our chance. So you destroyed months of my hard work? Chidi's anger rose now, replacing the hurt momentarily. Work that could have helped real people solve real problems? You didn't just betray me as a friend, you betrayed everyone who could have benefited from this research and discovery. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears that spilled down her cheeks unchecked. We didn't think about that part. We only thought about ourselves, about our grades, about our family's expectations. We were so consumed by envy that we couldn't see clearly anymore. I'm so sorry, Chidi. Olu removed his glasses and wiped his eyes with trembling hands. Jealousy made us blind to what really matters. You were never our enemy, but we treated you like one. We let comparison poison our hearts until we couldn't celebrate your success anymore. We became monsters. The room fell silent except for their quiet crying and the squeaking ceiling fan above. Chidi looked at the destroyed papers, then at his former friends, and felt something shift deep inside his chest. Anger began melting into something else, something softer and wiser. Do you know what hurts most? Chidi said softly, bending down to gather the torn pieces carefully. It's not the destroyed research, though that pain cuts deep. It's losing my friends to something as empty as envy. Grades don't hug you when you're sad. Success doesn't laugh at your jokes. He looked up at them, his eyes red but clear, with newfound understanding and forgiveness. I never wanted to be better than you. I just wanted to be the best version of myself. Your success wouldn't have reduced mine. There was enough room for all of us to shine brightly together. Emeka stepped forward, his voice barely a whisper filled with shame and hope. Is there any way we can fix this terrible thing we've done? Can you ever forgive us? We don't deserve it, but we're begging you anyway. We'll do anything to make this right again. Chidi was quiet for a long moment, thinking deeply about friendship, forgiveness, and what really mattered in life. The research could be recreated with time and effort, but friendships, once broken by betrayal, were harder to rebuild. Yet he knew that holding grudges would only poison his own heart. Help me, he said finally, extending his hand toward them with genuine openness and grace. Help me put these pieces back together. Not just the paper, but our friendship too. We'll recreate the research together this time. 4 minds working as one instead of competing against each other. Relief washed over their faces like cool rain after a long drought. They rushed forward, kneeling beside Chidi on the floor, carefully gathering every torn piece of paper. Their tears mixed with laughter as they worked side by side, slowly rebuilding what envy had destroyed. For the next 2 weeks, they worked together in that same study room, from morning until late afternoon. Chidi shared all his research methods openly without holding back. Emeka contributed ideas about practical village applications. Ngozi added creative presentation techniques. Olu organized everything into clear, logical structures. They discovered something beautiful in those long hours of collaboration and teamwork. When they stopped competing and started cooperating, each person's unique strengths emerged clearly. They weren't enemies fighting for limited success. They were partners building something greater than any individual could achieve alone. The presentation day arrived with clear blue skies and nervous energy filling every corner of the campus. The 4 friends stood together backstage, wearing their best clothes, holding hands in a circle of renewed friendship and mutual support. Their project was ready, stronger because of their combined efforts. Professor Okafor and the other lecturers sat in the front row, notebooks ready to evaluate and judge. When Chidi's group was called, they walked onto the stage together, shoulders straight, faces confident, hearts united in purpose, and genuine friendship restored through forgiveness. They presented their water distribution formula with passion and clarity that amazed everyone watching. Chidi explained the mathematics brilliantly. Emeka demonstrated practical applications confidently. Ngozi's presentation skills captivated the audience completely. Olu's organizational charts made complex ideas simple to understand and follow. When they finished, the auditorium erupted in thunderous applause that seemed to shake the very walls. Professor Okafor stood up, clapping loudly, his stern face broken by a proud smile. Other students cheered, moved by the presentation's potential to actually help Nigerian communities access clean water. Later that afternoon, results were posted on the notice board outside the main building. Students crowded around, pushing to see the rankings. When Chidi's group looked, they found their names together at the top, all sharing first place with equal credit given to everyone. But what filled Chidi with the deepest joy wasn't the top ranking itself. It was seeing Emeka's genuine smile return, hearing Ngozi laugh without bitterness, watching Olu stand tall with pride. Their success was shared, multiplied rather than divided, sweeter because they had achieved it together as true friends. Under the acacia tree that evening, they sat together like they used to months ago. The setting sun painted the sky orange and purple. Someone had bought a Kara again, and they ate and talked like old times, but wiser now, changed by what they had survived together. "I learned something important," Emeka said, looking at Chidi with clear eyes full of respect and affection. "Your success never threatened mine. I threatened myself by comparing instead of focusing on my own growth. Envy almost destroyed the best thing in my life, which was our friendship and brotherhood." Ngozi nodded in agreement, her voice soft but firm with conviction. "Competition made me blind to cooperation's power. We achieved more in 2 weeks working together than I managed in months working alone. True success isn't about being better than others, but about being better than who we were yesterday." Olu added his own wisdom gained through painful experience and reflection. "I was so busy looking at Chidi's paper that I couldn't see my own strengths. Every person has unique gifts that deserve celebration. Comparison is the thief of joy and the murderer of friendship. I won't let it steal from me again." Chidi felt warmth spread through his chest, the kind that comes from being truly understood and accepted. "And I learned that success means nothing without people to share it with. Grades fade, but friendships last forever if we nurture them. I'd rather come second with friends than first alone and isolated." They stayed under that tree until the stars emerged, twinkling like diamonds scattered across the dark sky. They made promises to always celebrate each other's victories and support each other through failures. They vowed that envy would never again poison their hearts or destroy their bond of brotherhood. Professor Okafor, passing by on his evening walk, paused to watch them from a distance. He smiled knowingly, understanding that these students had learned life's most valuable lesson. True education wasn't just about mastering mathematics or scoring high marks. It was about mastering the heart and learning to love others' success as much as your own. The next semester began with all 4 friends studying together openly and joyfully. When Chidi scored highest, they genuinely celebrated his achievement without hidden resentment. When Emeka excelled in practical applications, they cheered loudest. When Ngozi won a presentation award, they carried her on their shoulders. When Olu got perfect marks, they threw him a surprise party. Their story spread across campus, becoming a legend that older students shared with younger ones. They became known not as competitors but as collaborators, proof that success multiplies when shared rather than hoarded selfishly. Other study groups formed, inspired by their example of friendship over rivalry. Years later, when they all graduated with honors and went on to successful careers helping communities across Nigeria, they would look back on that painful moment in the study room. They would remember the torn papers and the tears, but also the forgiveness and the rebuilding that followed. That experience taught them what no textbook ever could. It showed them that envy is a fire that burns the one who holds it hottest. That comparison steals joy and murders contentment. That true friendship isn't about being equal in all things, but about celebrating each other's unique gifts and supporting each other's individual journeys. They learned that success tastes sweetest when shared with genuine friends who celebrate rather than resent your achievements. That lifting others up doesn't pull you down, but actually elevates everyone higher. That there's enough sunshine for every flower to bloom without blocking light from others. Most importantly, they discovered that forgiveness has the power to transform enemies back into friends and bitter experiences into beautiful lessons. That holding grudges only weighs down the one who carries them. That extending grace, even when hurt deeply, is the truest mark of strength and mature character. So when people asked Chidi in later years about his greatest achievement, he never mentioned his top grades or his innovative research or his successful career. Instead, he always spoke about his friends and the lesson they learned together about envy, forgiveness, and true success. Because he always came at the top of his class, but his friends became envious. And in overcoming that envy together, they all discovered something far more valuable than any grade could measure. They found that real success isn't about standing above others, but about standing together, lifting each other up towards shared dreams and collective triumph.